So if you've been looking for the perfect cinema travel rig, then I've got something that might interest you. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I want to go over my recent travel kit, or basically the camera setup that I've been taking on my travels over the last few months. And it's something that I've been really passionate about because I love using the Sony FX3. I'm using it right now to film this A-roll, but the big bulky camera setup is oftentimes more of a hindrance than it is actually worth getting cinematic quality images. This new camera setup is honestly the perfect size for travel, casual vlogging, or even it's good enough to film content and even videos for this YouTube. So stick around and take a look through my setup. I think it'll be a lot of use. Big shout out to Peacegates. He's the one that recommended me this exact setup of camera, lens, and VND filter. Peace is awesome on YouTube and Instagram. Go ahead and follow him. I'll link his channels down below. All right, let's get into it. All right, so my recent travel shooting kit is solely and primarily focused around this camera setup. And this, as you can tell, is the Sony ZV-E1. And this setup, honestly, this has been a game changer, primarily for two main reasons. Now, most of my content when I film, I use the Sony FX3, or the A-roll right now is being shot on Sony FX3. And the FX3, honestly, hands down for solo creators, is probably the best all-in-one camera. Now, it's a lot more expensive than a lot of the other camera bodies on the market. I think even now today, 5 or 6 years later, it's still going to like $4,000 or $5,000 or $6,000 brand new. But for travel setups, when you're out and about, especially for me when I'm going like day trips or just solo traveling or something not too serious where I still want to capture cinematic images, but I want really high quality and I don't want to carry around a huge rig. This right here, this trifecta of camera body, lens, and VND is the perfect kit for traveling because it's so light, it's so compact. Let me just go ahead and show you. This is the Canon R5 with just a basic 50mm lens on for comparison. And although the size of the actual body, I mean, it's quite a bit smaller than the R5 here, but more so than the actual physical size, the weight of this camera is so tiny. It's really pocketable, it's really light in the hand, and the image quality that you get out of this is phenomenal. So to break it down first, let's talk about the actual camera body, and this is the Sony, again, ZV-E1, and what makes this camera so amazing and what I really appreciate about it is it's basically the same sensor, or it is the same sensor as the Sony FX3. This means that I can still shoot in beautiful S-Log3, I can shoot in 10-bit log, and it's got the same Exmor RCMOS sensor as the FX3, so you get that same dynamic range, and most importantly, you get the same dual native ISO. So on the lower end, it's 640, and on the highest end, it go all the way up to 12,800 is your second base ISO. I film everything on the 2 base ISO, so when I'm outdoors filming in harsh, bright sunlight conditions, I'll shoot at 640, and when I'm inside at night or in low lit situations, I'll just bump this up to 12,800 and then pop on an ND and adjust my aperture and everything accordingly to make sure I get the cleanest image possible. So basically, in a sense, this camera is almost exactly the same as the Sony FX3. Now, there are a couple of different caveats. The first is that obviously instead of 2 SD card slots, you only get 1 SD card slot, and this can be a little bit of a hindrance for specific client shoots when you want to record natively to 2 SD card slots at once, just so you have a backup. Besides the SD card, obviously the FX3 is built more towards a cinema rig, so it's got, those tally lights, it's got a lot of different buttons that you can quickly adjust. Overall, I found that the layout of the ZV-E1 is honestly, it's more than enough for casual shooting, or not even just casual shooting, but just going out and doing solo filmmaking. There's not much more that I really need. Once you turn on the camera, you can quickly access your menu, the touchscreen, and you've got all of your access functions here. It's basically the same setup as the FX3, but just in a much smaller rig. One of the biggest problems I found online with regards to this camera is overheating issues, which I haven't found any issues with in my use cases. I'm not using this for long, hour-long A-rolls, so that might be where this camera has some limitations, but just casually pulling it out, even recording longer sequences of up to 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, no problem at all. I'm sure you can film even longer. I think if you're in super hot conditions, maybe that's where this camera might have some issues, but overall, even without the fans, I've never had any issues filming on the specific camera. Now, the size and weight is honestly one of my favorite features of this camera because it's so small. It's so much easier to just put in a side sling. I'll talk about my bag later, but this having basically, I would say it's like a pocketable cinema camera. You can basically just pull this out at any time. It's a lot more inconspicuous, and because it's a lot more inconspicuous and a lot easier to pull around, it allows for you to get more shots much quicker, and then also just to get like those candid moments with which you can't really film that much on a much larger cinema rig. When you're filming on a super large cinema rig, you have to be a lot more precise, a lot more calculated, and you have to pull out a big heavy rig, and it doesn't allow you to get those quick shots, which this camera really allows for. Besides it being just a much smaller profile than the Sony FX3, the other main reason I wanted to get this specific camera is its built-in microphone. Now, the built-in microphone in this camera is really high quality. It's a directional microphone. You could choose, I think, between forward, or I don't know if it's AI or it's built-in, but you can choose between either capturing more of the forward noise, the background noise, if you're like talking and doing voiceover, or just a combination of both. I usually have the microphone position forward facing, and the reason is I used to use, or I still use, this lens very often. It's the Sony EC-M1, but having an extra piece of gear on you, especially in this sort of rig, if I just put it on here, just adding this microphone instantly creates a much larger profile camera. And this is, I mean, it's not an issue when you want to rig out your camera and do cinema grade quality shoots. But when you're out about filming, vlogs or in the city or whatever, you want to have as minimal of a rig as possible. And adding a single piece of gear like this, even if it's just a small microphone, really adds to the bulk and cumbersomeness of the overall rig. So not having to use this specific microphone, which is what I used on my Sony a7C II previously, is a huge game changer. And just being able to carry this and not, sometimes you forget about your microphone or you don't have it with you, that obviously was an issue, but being able to rely on the internal microphone on this camera is amazing. The camera actually comes with this dead cat, which you can just pop on right here, and just by popping it on, it just reduces some of the wind noise. And honestly, this is my setup right here. This combination of the ZV-E1 with this dead cat for audio, I found is just, it's good enough. It's really, honestly, it's really high quality. Now, paired with the ZV-E1, obviously I have the Sony 24mm f2.8G lens. Now, this lens is a Sony native lens, and it's honestly so small profile, such a low profile lens. Just to give you a quick example, this is the Sony 16mm f1.8, and this is 24mm, and already you could tell a huge difference just in the size and especially the weight of these two different lenses. The 24mm is much smaller than the 16. It's much smaller than the 24G Master I'm using right now, and it's a lot lighter, which is very crucial when you're carrying this around all day and you're filming things, especially when you're traveling. You want to have as small of a profile as possible, and obviously the lightest bag that you can carry. I've been using this lens almost exclusively on the ZV-E1 over the last month, and honestly, this combination is beautiful. 24mm focal length is fantastic for vlogging. It's fantastic for travel. It's wide enough where you can get environmental shots that you can just get a little bit closer. And honestly, the 2.8 is enough. It's enough to get that cinematic kind of depth of quality. And you're looking for, travel videos, you're obviously shooting more often than not at like f5.6 or f8 or whatever. So honestly, this combination hasn't bothered me at all. And the image quality is fantastic, especially again, for this small of a package. You can't beat this combination. Now with this lens, I wanted the same size ND filter. And for this, I've gone with the Nisi Vario 1:5 stop. And this specific one has a 49mm filter thread. I believe it's called the Pro Nano. And with it being a 49mm filter thread, I wanted something that was obviously the same filter thread as this 24mm, and also a high enough quality ND filter. I feel like people oftentimes cheap out on the ND filters and you get this weird color cast. I wanted to avoid that as much as possible. So I went with this ND filter according to Pieces recommendations, and again, it's been fantastic. It's really been low profile, so small, so easy to use, and I've had no complaints, no issues with color grading. There's no weird color casts, and it honestly just gets the job done. It's so small and it's so compact, and it's a great combination with this specific lens and this body. Before I move on to the next part of the setup, let me show you a quick tip that I use on my cinematic footage throughout my travels. So when you're out filming on location, especially when you're solo, sometimes when you capture clips, you don't get enough footage. I've had times in the edit where I found the perfect clip, but when I go ahead and add it into my sequence, it's just too short. Sometimes it's only like 1 or 2 seconds. And when you're building out your cinematic sequences, you need as much footage as you can to go ahead and adjust it to the song or whatever situation you're in. A lot of video editors actually have a built-in extend feature, and Premiere Pro it's called rate extend, but a lot of times it doesn't look that good. So that's where I use CDance 2.0 within Higgsfield to really naturally extend my clips. CDance 2.0 handles complex motion in and interaction and real world behavior. The way I go about it is I go ahead and upload media. You can either upload a screenshot or your actual clip. Just go ahead and upload it here. For this original clip here, as you can see, it's only about 1 or 2 seconds, and I'd like to have it basically up to 10 seconds. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and just export a frame, take a screenshot of my scene here, and then upload that to Seedance. In Seedance, you're gonna go ahead and select that screenshot, and then I like to keep my prompts typically pretty simple. So here I just have static shot, do not move the camera, gentle wind, moving the cherry blossoms. And then once you've selected your model, you can select your duration, and you can go all the way up to 15 seconds here. I've shot this in 4:3 aspect ratio. You can leave it in auto if you like, and then I just go ahead and click generate. Seedance does a really good job of extending your sequences, and once I have this extended video, I've now gone from basically a 1 or 2 second clip to up to a 10 to 15 second clip of that same sequence. And honestly, it does a really good job of rendering realism. And once I've got that clip, I can go ahead and integrate it into my cinematic sequence, or even use it as a video postcard in my next post. If you're interested in trying out Higgsfield, make sure to click the link down in the description below. Thanks again, Higgsfield, for sponsoring today's video. Now, when I'm traveling, basically I just carry this. Obviously, I've got an SD card in my camera, but besides this, I kind of just put this on its own in my bag. And a lot of times people use, when they travel, to use camera specific side bags. But lately I've been using this bag. This is the Porter Compart, I believe, collaboration sling bag. It's just a very small kind of shoulder sling bag. I've got this little blue lug accessory that I've attached to one of the sides here, but it's got 2 pockets on the sides here, and then it's got 1 large main compartment. And so in the large main compartment, I've got this. I just pop on my lens cap here, and then I honestly just pop this like so in my bag. And it's such a small, light, compact bag that when you're traveling, it's so easy to get this into places where oftentimes they'd be like, no filming, but this size of bag and then this size of camera, it's really inconspicuous. And it's a really nice size and form factor of a bag and camera combination to where you could fit other things in your bag. More often than not, when I'm traveling, I often have a camera of some sort. So oftentimes I'll bring like a film point and shoot, like this Olympus Mu. I'll just go ahead and pop this again into my camera bag. Sometimes I'll have like clothes or something to really, create a buffer, or sometimes I'll buy things on the go. And I don't use a camera cube in this particular setup just because it's a little bit bulkier. And honestly, I'm just about minimalism and trying to figure out how to get the smallest possible cinematic look without having to carry too much gear. And so this is basically the entire setup, along with the camera and oftentimes a film camera. I'll also bring this. Now, this is the PGY Tech Mantis Pod. The PGY Tech Mantis Pod is a great travel companion. It's a tripod, basically. This detaches here really easily, and you attach this to the bottom of your camera. And it's a really, honestly, small clip-on tripod. It opens up like so, it rotates out, and it creates this small tripod, which you can set down anywhere. It's really light, it's compact, and then not only can you use this as a tripod, but it's also got this really nifty feature where you pop this out, and now you can attach this to doors, or you can attach this little hook to different locations and create sort of a third interesting, unique POV angle. And so this combination of a lightweight tripod is something that is really useful. You could also use it kind of like as a vlogging selfie stick if you even want, where you can just attach your camera here. That gives you that extra, I don't know what this is, 20 centimeters, whatever, like a foot distance, where you can kind of reach this out and hold it and further kind of enhance your, especially if you have like a 24mm, you don't have that wide enough field of view, popping this on, holding it out, and you get that selfie shot, which is really nice. And this, again, fits really nicely in this bag. You just, again, pop this in. It's super lightweight, and this bag, honestly, size, form factor wise, is one of the best Porter bags out there for daily use. And it's also not too square. It's really small, it's really slim, so it hugs up against your body. And it's a really, really useful, and I think relatively cheap. You can get these used for, I think, $100 or whatever. And it's honestly just a great companion to have when you're traveling. Many times when I'm filming, actually, I don't even bring the tripod if I don't want, and I'm just doing everything handheld. Sometimes I'll just put my camera, on like a rock or on a fence or something and just use things as tripods. But when I can, I'll bring this. Otherwise, it's usually just the main player, which is, again, the Sony ZV-E1 with the 24mm and the VND. So yeah, that was my lightweight, really minimal travel kit. Basically the camera setup that I use very extensively on my travels, but more recently on my normal day-to-day content creation and just in and around the house. I still really love the Sony FX3 and I'll use it mainly for client work and all of my kind of really large productions, or especially shoots where I need backup, specifically the dual SD card slot. The ability to record to 2 SD card slots simultaneously has saved me and also been the downfall of me. I've actually had a couple of SD cards corrupt while I've been filming just a one single SD card slot. So for any sort of like really important shoots, again, I'm always reaching for the Sony FX3, but for everything else, I think the ZV-E one is honestly more than enough. If I was just starting out in content creation or I just needed a smaller kit or a smaller body for travels, this is the one that I'm reaching to currently. I think it's the best in the market, and for the price point, it's really a no-brainer. If you have any questions on this particular kit or any of the other gear in my setup or my lineup, or any other questions on my content creation or anything in general, leave them down in the comments below. If you enjoy my color grading, my sound design, my presets, any of that jazz, please click the link down in the description below. It'll be my shop. It's a huge help to the channel and I really appreciate it. And if you made it to the end of the video, as always, I really appreciate it. Leave the word travel down below so I know you're a real one. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.